If you were here last Sunday and you were in this part of this part of the site rather than over in the centre with the children or upstairs with the young people, then you will know that we were looking at Jesus' command to love one another. And what I want to do this morning is follow on a little bit from that and to think about what does that look like on a Saturday morning or a Wednesday afternoon or a Friday evening, wherever we might be, whatever we might be doing, whether we are 5, whether we are 45, or whether we are 85. And as I said earlier, we're going to be thinking about this theme of compassion, and I want to think particularly about that word. Now, I have asked the following question before, and so I'm realistic about the answers I might get, but I have asked this question before, and so I will be happy even if one person gets the right answer, because at least we'll be moving in the right direction. Okay, so the question is this. What is the most quoted verse in the Bible? By which I mean, which verse does the Bible itself re-quote the most? And you might not know the actual reference, but you might be able to just give me a little hint as to kind of what some of the words might be. So this is not the verse that people might quote the most from the Bible. This is the verse in the Bible that the Bible re-quotes the most frequently. The Lord is compassionate, slow to anger, abounding in love. The other ones were very good guesses. Where is it now? I think I've got it on here somewhere. Here it is from Exodus 34, 6 and 7. So this is the most re-quoted verse in the Bible. God is talking to Moses, and he goes in front of Moses and he proclaims, the Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness, maintaining love to thousands, and forgiving wickedness, rebellion, and sin. And it might sound familiar. The reason it sounds familiar is because one of the places it was re-quoted is Psalm 103, which is what we started with, where it talks about the compassionate and gracious God. So, I want you to talk to a person next to you and to tell and work out what you think the word compassion or compassionate means, or either come up with a definition or come up with some words that might mean something very similar. So for those of you that didn't hear that on the live stream, it's not just about worrying about somebody else, it's about doing something about it, which is this is a definition I found somewhere: a deep feeling of sympathy for another person's suffering combined with a strong desire and motivation to take action to do something about it. And so it's not just this idea of feeling sorry for someone, but it's this idea of feeling that and wanting to do something about it. And often in the New Testament, we read that Jesus has compassion on somebody. He sees somebody in need, he has compassion, and then he does something about it. There are a few of the parables where we are, the point of the parable is to show that God has compassion on us. And so God doesn't just see us in our need, he does something about it. And also there are some parables that show us that that is what God expects of us too. He expects us to be the kind of people that when we see someone in need, we won't just feel something, but we'll be motivated to do something. And we're going to read one of those parables now from Luke chapter 10. If you've got a Bible in front of you, the words will appear on the screen behind me, but if you've got a Bible in front of you, it's Luke chapter 10, and it's a very well-known parable, the parable of the Good Samaritan. And I'm going to start reading at verse 25. So, on one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he asked, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "What is written in the law?" he replied. And how do you read it? And as we were reminded earlier on, he answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. You have answered correctly, Jesus replied. Do this and you will live. But he wanted to justify himself, and so he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? In reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, he passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, now the NIV here says he took pity on him, but other translations use the word had compassion on him. And when this Greek word appears in the New Testament, in the NIV, most often they translate it had compassion. But for some reason they've done it differently here. But this verse could be read, a Samaritan, as he traveled, came to where the man was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him. He went to him, this is verse 34, he went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, go and do likewise. And we are going to think about that parable a little bit later on in our service. But earlier on, we were looking at the parable, or we read the parable of the Good Samaritan. And it's a parable that helps us to understand what compassion looks like, and it helps us to understand the kinds of people that God wants us to be. And so there was a man who was walking along the road, and he was attacked by robbers and beaten up. And he's left there. He may even be dead for all they know or care. And in the parable, 3 people come along. And the first 2 of these people are religious leaders. And so they are the sorts of people that you would, if you were listening to the story, you would think, well, they know, of all the people, they know the sorts of things that God would want them to do. But rather than help the man, for whatever reason, they decide that they're going to leave him there and they're going to pass by on the other side. So there's the first one, and there is the second one. Just leave him lying on the road. And then a third character comes along in the story, and he is a Samaritan. Now, it's really important for us, reading this story now rather than then, to know that the Jews and everyone that was listening to this story, and Jesus who was telling this story, were Jews. So Jews and Samaritans were enemies, and they hated each other. So the Jews hated the Samaritans, and the Samaritans hated the Jews. And it's really important to bear that in mind, because if you were listening to the story, of all the people that have passed by so far, the one that you would expect to pass by on the other side is the Samaritan. Why would he help? Because this man on the floor is his enemy. And yet, the surprising twist to the tale is that this Samaritan is the one that helps the man. He puts him on his own donkey, he bandages up his wounds, he takes him to an inn, he pays for his care, and he promises to pay anything more that needs to be paid. And so in a surprising twist, is the one that you would think would be least likely is the one that has compassion, the one that sees the man is injured and wants to do something to help. And Jesus wants us to be those kind of people, the kind of people that when we see someone in need, whether it is someone who is like us or someone who is not like us, whether it is someone we like or someone we don't like, Jesus wants us to be the kind of people that will have compassion, that will see that they're in need and will want to do something to help. And I'm sure that if we were to just spend a few moments thinking about it, we could all come up with ways in which we could show compassion. One of the ways that the children that go out on a Sunday, so if you don't have children in Energize, you probably all you see is that they disappear and the service becomes much more peaceful. And then we go over to have coffee and they're there and it's much more noisy again. And you have no idea what goes on over there if you don't have children who are over there. But one of the things that, since about October, November time, one of the things that the children have been doing over there is thinking how they can have compassion, and it's through an organization called Compassion. If you want to know more, this is the Compassion UK website. If you want to know more about Compassion after what I've said throughout the rest of the service, then I'd encourage you to go to their website. It's compassionuk.org. There is a link on the helpful resources page of our church website, and so you can go and find out all sorts there. And through this particular organization, our children in Energize are supporting a little girl called Bless. This is her photo. If it's not very easy to see, we've got a photo on the back doors. There's some photos on the back doors, and you can get a close-up there. This girl is called Bless. She lives in Tanzania, and she is 7 years old, and she is in year 3 in primary school. And that little red dot on the map of Tanzania is roughly where she lives. We know because she's written us a letter that she enjoys playing with her dolls. She enjoys playing games like hide and seek. At school, one of the subjects she enjoys is maths, so that's a big plus in my book. And she doesn't live with her mum and dad, she lives with her aunt, and her aunt is a farmer, as many people will be in that part of the world, with a kind of a small farm with enough to grow and a few animals just to that they have enough to eat. And the way that Compassion works when you sponsor a child through Compassion is that this organization, Compassion, they partner with local churches. So in all the 29 countries that Compassion work, they partner with local churches, and the local church is then able to support children like Bless. So the local church, obviously, they're on the ground, they know the people, they speak the language, they're from the same culture, and so they are able to work out the best ways to support these children that live in the communities around. And they help with things like schooling. So I said, Bless is in year 3, but Compassion will continue to help all the way through primary school. And as we'll see in a moment when we watch a video, often these young people will then go on to university and become qualified scientists, doctors, lawyers, all those kind of things, teachers, etc., etc., etc. They're also able to help these children and their families with medical care, and in many other ways too. And so we're going to watch a video and then we'll think some more about this.
2025 was a hard year for many. Floods swept through villages, conflicts uprooted families, hunger touched far too many homes. There were many dark days full of loss and sorrow. Yet, even there, God was at work, and through you, He brought the light of His great hope to children in desperate poverty. Because of your compassion, 2.4 million children were known, loved, and protected by their local churches this year. More than 15,500 children received life-saving surgeries and critical medical care. Over 324,000 families received emergency aid, support to rebuild their lives after disaster, and counseling that brought healing and hope. 330 new compassion centers opened their doors, welcoming roughly 137,731 more children into the program, where they hear the good news of Jesus and are being empowered to live a thriving life in relationship with Him. Through our survival initiative, more than 69,092 mothers and babies were cared for during their babies' precious first years of life. And this year, 69,583 young men and women graduated from the Compassion Program, stepping boldly into the future God has prepared for them. With them, they carry the hope of Christ, equipped to do His kingdom work wherever they go. While so many people, including those here at home, were not spared from seeing some dark days, it's in the dark where the light, His light, shines the brightest. Every prayer you lift, every letter you write, every gift you give, they shine hope into a child's life. The darkness may be great, but the light of Jesus shining through you is greater still. Thank you for empowering children around the world to walk in the light of life. And thank you for releasing children from poverty in Jesus' name.
So if you want to know more about the work of Compassion, as I say, there is a link on our website, or there's some bits of paper at the back on those glass doors that you can have a look at, and there's also some stuff over in the centre as well. So what our children at Energize do is each week they bring along £1, and that goes in a little tin, and then each month £32 gets sent off to Compassion to provide some of that sort of care that we've seen for this girl, Bless. We're able to write to her, and she's able to write back. And we can also pray for her, and the children at Energize are able to do that on a regular basis. Another thing we can do is we can send additional money for, say, her birthday. She's got a birthday coming up in March. And so if anyone wanted to contribute towards a little gift, again, this goes to the Compassion Centre on the ground. They know what's relevant and appropriate for her and for her family, and then they will buy a gift for her. Sue said it might be a toy, but it equally might be a goat. So because they know what the family needs, and so it's not going to be kind of us with very detached, not really knowing. It's going to be people on the ground that know Bless and her family. So if that's something you would like to do, then speak to me or to Sue or to Debbie afterwards. And I thought what I would do, one thing we could do, is we could take a photo, which we can then send. Because when we say we send letters, obviously, I'm assuming that you realise we don't do that physically. It goes electronically. And so we are going to take a photo of all of us here today. This won't go on the internet, so don't worry about that. But if you don't want to be in the photo, I suggest you take up a prayer pose now. You put your head in your hands like this. So all we see is the top of your head. But everyone else, how many of you can we get in? Can we get everyone in? Oh, yes, we can. Right, I've got a button somewhere. I can. So let's see if we can see. Where is everybody? There. So why don't you wave? Right, great. And we will send that to Bless and let her know that we were, as a whole church, not just the children at Energize, but as a whole church, we were thinking about her. And in just a moment, we are going to pray for her as well. So, I say, if you want to know more about the work of compassion as we think about how we can show compassion to others this week, then either resources at the back, resources online, or speak to Sue, and she'll be able to tell you lots more. So, let's pray.